at the Westin. I think 22 teams are at the Marriott, and the rest of them are spread out all over the river and other hotels. But San Antonio is my happy town because I love coming here when there's not basketball going around. But this is just a happy town because of the river, because of the Mexican food, because of the culture, and because nobody cares if you're making $5 an hour or you're a millionaire or a billionaire. Everybody does not worry about who you are. They're here to just enjoy the town of San Antonio, and that's what I like. I'm happy every time I come into this place, and I'd love to do it again later on in the summer to come play golf or just see some of the good restaurants or to shop. But this is a good place. But we're here to do one thing, and that is keep advancing. Our first championship is going to be against Troy, and Troy's a good team from the state of Alabama. They've been to NCAA 4 times. Chanda Rigby has done a very good job. She comes from a junior college background where she's coached. She knows how to recruit a lot of the top JUCOs in the country, and that's the style of ball they play. They're third in the nation in scoring, first in the nation in rebounding, and they play the game with no fear. And that's how you advance in the NCAAs. If you come in thinking that this team is number 1 or this team is number 2, you have no chance. But if you come in with a no fear attitude and just play your game, Cinderellas happen all the time in the tournament. Teams make it. Do the older teams play down to the level, or do the lower seeded teams play up to the level? And I've been a lower seeded team before at Arkansas. I'm still the lowest seed that ever made the Final Four when I was at Arkansas as a 9 seed. And I had the opportunity when we were out at Stanford to see a 16 beat a 1. And that's the only time that has ever happened in women's basketball. And then we played Harvard the next day after we won and made sure we didn't overlook anybody. So that's always been a great teaching lesson to me, is preparing not for the next game, but always preparing just for this game. Open it up for questions.
All right, the first question will go to Jessica. For those of you who are new to the Zoom, just private message me if you have a question and we'll get it to Coach. Thank you.
All right, well, I know you said you get back to practicing today, so what do the next 3 days of preparation look like for you guys?
I've probably gained 5 pounds already on all the snacks and all the food they give you to the hotel, and that's not good. Starting this afternoon after practice, I'm going to walk from my suite here on the 15th floor all the way down to the inn, all the way down to the 15th floor, because we're on it. I figured if I made 20 trips up and down the hallway, that's going to be a mile. So I'm going to try to get my walking in, since I cannot do my walking outside. Just on my floor, one end to the other, 20, 25 trips, put my mile in. Practice went well yesterday. We worked out at 8 o'clock at the convention center for an hour and a half. We'll be back at 2 o'clock for an hour and a half. And then tomorrow we'll go to Austin and work out another hour and a half, but it'll take us an hour and a half to get there if the traffic is not bad. And then Sunday, or on the day of the game, Sunday, we will not go to Austin to work out. We will work out here at the Alamo Dome or where they put us in the convention center to work out. And you just adjust. There's only so much you can do. Now what you want to do is make sure you prevent injuries during these 5 or 6 days. of working out, fine tuning, maybe tweaking just a little, putting in a different option off of a set. And other than that, we're going in, well, what's gotten us here, that is playing very good defense, running a lot of sets, trying to improve in our transition game that has been, to me, very ordinary. That's just one thing that we have to improve on is our transition game after a steal or a missed shot and start scoring a little bit easier.
Talking about working out, I know there's been a lot about what the women's weight room looks like out there. Do you have any kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, we got some thoughts. I want to show you something while I move over here. Hold on, I'm not supposed to do this, but can y'all see this? That's our swag bag. Okay? That's not very much, folks, but I think I got that. Well, I got as much from that when I moved to Bryan College Station from the Chamber of Commerce. These kids should feel more important. Everything here is done right. The protocol, the safety, everything's perfect. But I think they should have treated the young ladies a little bit better because our kids love to work out. All female athletes love to work out. There should have been a little bit more thought involved. And I think it took Sidonia Prince from Oregon to bring it to the forefront. And I'm glad she had a loud voice in showing what was not done and what could be done. So hopefully the people in the NCAA realize, hey, that was probably an error. We'll make sure we do something about it, and I'm sure they will. But it was unacceptable for allowing kids to be able to work out. And see, in the hotels, you all have great weight rooms in the hotels, but you're not allowed to use those because you would have 22 teams working out in the weight room at the Marriott and 8 over here at the Westin and where everybody else is. So that cannot be done. It would have had to have been set up at the convention center or at the Alamo Dome. And I don't know what their thought process was on it, but everything else has been perfect down here. So let's solve the problem instead of griping about the problem. Let's figure a way how to solve it.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, next we'll go to Cease.
Gary, you talked the other day about having better starts, and you mentioned that kind of, as that would happen. And you guys have had problems with the slow starts. Why do you feel it's going to change now that you're in the NCAA tournament? How are you going to do that?
Well, the kids are tired of hearing me talk about it. My assistants say I talk about it too much, but also the other team prepares for us very well. And sometimes they take away the sets. The only way sometimes you can get off to a red hot start is by turning it over, having transition offense. Transition offense off of a steal or a missed shot and being able to score easy. Or you just have to, we average about 75 a game. They average about 86 a game. And theirs is more off of transition. Mine is more off of sets. And you want to go from good to great shots. You don't want to settle on a shot. And I think too many times, sometimes you're open for a reason because they want you to take a shot that you might be open, but then they're in perfect position to rebound and you got a 1 and out situation. Or you just got to be letter perfect on your jump shots or when you get it inside. So hopefully we can find a way. This is definitely not going to be a low scoring game. We're not going to try to keep the score in the 60s or the 50s. course, we do not want it in the hundreds either. My defensive coordinator would jump off the 15th floor if he gave up 100 points. So what we're going to try to do is play our good defense. Which one we'll use, you have to tune in on Jimmy Buffett time, 5 o'clock on Monday, and see what type of defense we're going to play.
Gary, speaking of defense, since they do get up and down, where do you feel the evolution of your defense is this year under Starkey? Do you feel you play your best right now, or you still have yet to play your best?
I think we're playing our best because we're learning how to work in 9 or 10 players versus 6 players, which we've been doing the last couple of years. Our starters were so strong and our depth was decent, but it was not at the level of bringing in 3 transfers, a JUCO All-American, or other kids that have been in our program for as long as they have. We trust our bench. The game is not going to be won or lost in the first quarter. So if I have to protect Sierra Johnson, if she makes a silly foul early, I will protect her just like South Carolina does that with Boston. You want to make sure your best players are going to be there for extended third and fourth quarter. So that means that's up to my bench. I can play small ball, or I can go and I can put Anna in, who's a very good shot blocker. I could bring Ella in. It's time for kids to produce right now, and it's time for me to produce as a coach by pulling the right buttons and motivating those kids that are going in to come in and be a little bit different and not make the same mistakes that a starter has made on either a bad call or a silly foul, or just because she's not running hard enough. We're going to find a way, and I guarantee you the first 10 minutes of the first quarter against Troy, get your seatbelt ready, because we're going to be going fast, and they will be as well. We're going to be going fast and trying to get into the flow of the game.
Thanks, Gary.
All right, next we'll go to Jordan Mendoza.
Hey, Coach, just to circle back on the whole topic surrounding the women's tournament and the disparity it's had with amenities in the men's tournament. The NCAA earlier today said that they spoke with coaches and other members that are in this sort of bubble about, what they could do better. Were you part of that conversation, or do you know any other coaches that were part of that conversation? And if so, can you talk about what was said with the organization?
I was not part of the conversation because they know I'm too long-winded to be part of that conversation. Everything else in San Antonio has been good. The protocol, the safety issue, the testing, the food being on time at the hotels, everything. But sometimes on the simplest thing, where could people work out? Okay, if they wanted to without breaking the bubble, how could you wipe down the stuff either in the Alamo Dome or the convention center to get it sprayed? We have to do that at home. If we're working out after the men's basketball team works out in our weight room, it is all sanitized and clean before we go out. I think the same thing can be done if they've got bicycle cops taking us from one end to the other, perfect precision, the red light stop, we walk across, just putting together a weight room. That's pretty easy, whether it be the volleyball tournament or wrestling or anything like that. Athletes want to be able to have their body taken care of. And since we cannot use the weight rooms in the hotels, there should have been a little bit more advanced planning. And I'm sure they will get it fixed. Do I have the right answers for it? No, because obviously I do not use the weight room, as you can tell by my body, but I walk a lot, and I'm walking hallways right now.
All right, well, appreciate it, Coach.
Matt Roberts.
Hey, Coach. Yeah, earlier this year, you talked about maybe the potential for more upsets in this tournament. With y'all playing closer to home where family and friends can come for the first couple rounds, and then being closer to College Station in the Alamo Dome there, does that maybe give y'all an advantage over some of the other teams in the field?
Yes and no. Parents being able to come in. There's a lot of Aggies that live in Austin and San Antonio where we'll play our first round and hopefully a lot of other rounds. A lot of Aggies, if they can find a way to get tickets, they'll find way. First and second rounds, they're not going to be able to find ways unless they're on the player pass list or my pass list. And I have too many relatives for that to happen. The advantage is, yes, we've played in the Drum, and it's a very good facility, and that's in Austin, and we're very familiar with that facility, but we're not familiar with the Alamo Dome. We're not at all. The only one is Sahara Jones, who's lost 2 state championships in there when she played from San Antonio. That's the only one who is familiar with it. And correct me if I'm wrong, was that where our men lost in the Sweet 16 that I was at that ball game? And that's the only other time I've been in the Alamo Dome. And that was a heck of a ball game. So, but Texas is one of the most underrated states for basketball. All we talk about is football and the Cowboys and the Texans and all of that type of stuff. But for basketball, men and women, we have produced so many great teams. And particularly on the women's side, you've got probably the only state in the country that has 4 national championships: Texas Tech, Baylor, Texas, and ourselves. You check my stats up, but I'm sure we're the only state that has done that. And then throw in a bunch of junior college championships and Division II and all that. It is a basketball state, and our slice of the pie in basketball keeps growing and growing and growing.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, Mike.
Hey, Coach, what has a fully healthy Aaliyah Wilson unlocked the potential of this team? How has her finally trusting her knee again and being back to 100% allowed you guys to flourish like y'all have this year?
Well, I've been able to see it from a different part of view. This has nothing to do with it, Mike, but my grandson, just went through the same injury last December, had the surgery in January, just like Aaliyah, then played his junior season and was nowhere even close to where he's going to be next year in his senior season. So I've had to live it by watching my grandson's games on stream, because I get all his games on stream, and watching and seeing how the quickness is not there or the confidence in your knee is not there. And I think that's the same thing that happened with Wilson last year. But we had the options of Kennedy Carter and Kayla Wells and Sham at the point guard. So we had very good options. And so it allowed Wilson to not put so much pressure on herself that she had to be the one. This year, she's got complete confidence. And as you know, I run a lot of screens for my 2 guards. And over the years, Takia Starks, Courtney Walker, Kennedy Carter, those are the top 3 leading scorers in A&M history. They all played the same position, the 2-guard position. Being able to create off the bounce, being able to create by having your teammates help you, and just having that innate ability to score in a lot of different ways. That's what Wilson has. But what Wilson has better than all the ones I've said before, she's the best defensive player of those 3 that are our top leading scorers in A&M history. Leah Wilson is the best combination of defense and offense that has played that position.
And then if I could ask one more, Coach, when you go into a tournament, what's the key to avoiding an upset? It doesn't matter if you're a 2, 15, 3, 14, whatever the seed. What's the one key for the higher seed to avoid getting upset?
Keep wearing that plus when I go into a timeout, for me to remain positive and have the answer for what's wrong, not to go into a timeout and just start chewing rear on something that was a silly mistake. I've got to turn the page as a head coach and find the solution to what's wrong. And that's where my assistants help me, or my coordinators, whatever you want to call them. They're good. And we listen to each other. Sometimes we agree to disagree, and that's what you have to have in coaching. But then you have a senior ball club like we have, and Sierra Johnson can run a huddle as good as us coaches can, because she makes everybody become accountable instead of pointing the finger at the referee or the other team or each other. She makes each other become accountable. And sometimes, Mike, it's just basketball. Is it an upset, or is it somebody just completely playing out of their element? Last night, watching Michigan State had the game in control and then lose at the end to UCLA. I mean, that was tough. Hall of Fame coach Izzo losing the game at the end because the shot was short or didn't do this, didn't block out, gave a second play. It's just basketball. If it happens, you can see a 16 beat a 1 or a 15 beat a 2. And I do not want to see it, because I sat there and watched Harvard beat Stanford the only time it's ever happened, because we were the 9 seed at Arkansas, and then we had to play that 16 seed the next ball game. And I want to make sure it doesn't happen. So I will play this game like it's the championship.
Thank you, Coach.
Yes, sir, Mike.
Are there any other questions for Coach Blair? All right. Thanks, Coach. We're about to get India Jones in here and Aaliyah Wilson. So stand by. I'll text them and we'll get them in here. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.